Business owners, what's the most obnoxious reason an employee quit / had to be fired over? I managed a small jewelry store in Westfield Mall for about 3 years, and during that time I dealt with my fair share of employee drama. But nothing prepared me for the absolute shitshow that was dealing with my employee Jessica and her very obvious affair with one of the mall security guards. Jessica had been working for me for about 8 months when I started noticing the security guard hanging around the store way more than necessary. His name was Derek, this stocky guy in his 30s who always looked like he was trying too hard to be intimidating in his little security uniform. At first I figured he was just being friendly. Some of the security guys would chat with store employees during their rounds, totally normal stuff. But then it became weird. Derek would show up during his breaks, during lunch, sometimes even when he wasn't working. I'd see him leaning against our counter talking to Jessica while she was supposed to be helping customers or restocking inventory. The conversations always looked a little too intimate for just friendly workplace chatter. The thing that really made me suspicious was how they'd act when I showed up unexpectedly. I'd come in on my days off to grab something from the office or check on inventory, and Derek would practically sprint out of the store the second he saw me. Not a casual "oh hey boss, just chatting" kind of exit, but this guilty panic scramble like I'd caught him doing something he shouldn't be doing. Jessica would get all flustered too. She'd start frantically organizing things that were already organized or suddenly become very interested in paperwork she'd been ignoring all week. Classic guilty behavior. I'm not stupid. I've been around long enough to recognize when people are fucking around, literally and figuratively. Now, I didn't give a shit about Jessica's personal life. She was married, Derek was married, and if they wanted to blow up their lives over some mall security guard romance, that was their business. But it was becoming my business because Derek's constant presence was affecting her work performance and creating a weird atmosphere in the store. Customers would come in and there'd be this guy in a security uniform just hanging out behind the counter like he worked there. Other employees started making comments about how Jessica never seemed to actually be working when Derek was around. The whole situation was becoming unprofessional and I needed to address it without getting into the messy personal drama. So I called a staff meeting on a Tuesday morning before we opened. Nothing dramatic, just me and the 3 employees I had working that week, including Jessica. I planned out what I was going to say, something neutral and general that would address the issue without directly accusing anyone of anything specific. I started off casual, talking about how business had been picking up and how we needed to maintain our professional image. Then I got to the main point. I know it gets slow in here during the week, and I'm guilty of it myself, but from now on I need everyone to keep personal visits to a minimum or during your lunch break. That's it. That's all I said. No names mentioned, no accusations, just a basic workplace policy that any reasonable person would understand. Jessica absolutely lost her fucking mind. She shot up from her chair like I just accused her of stealing from the register. Her face went bright red and she started screaming at me about how dare I accuse her of anything. She was calling me a bitch, saying I had no right to make assumptions about her personal life, claiming I was targeting her specifically because I was jealous or some other insane bullshit. You sent. I just sat there stunned while she went off on this unhinged rant. The other 2 employees looked like they wanted to disappear into the floor. I tried to calm her down, tried to explain that I wasn't accusing her of anything, but she was way past rational conversation at that point. She grabbed her purse, announced that she quit, and stormed out of the store, still yelling about what a terrible person I was. The whole scene probably lasted less than 5 minutes, but it felt like an hour. After she left, one of my other employees just looked at me and said, "Well, I guess we know why she was so defensive." But the story doesn't end there. Over the next 2 weeks, Jessica called the store probably 15 times, leaving increasingly unhinged voicemails. She'd call at random hours, sometimes clearly drunk, ranting about how I'd ruined her life and destroyed her reputation. She threatened to call corporate, threatened to spread lies about me to other mall employees, even threatened to key my car. I finally had to get mall management involved and they banned her from the property. Derek mysteriously requested a transfer to a different mall location about a week later. Last I heard, Jessica's husband had found out about the affair anyway and they were getting divorced. The whole situation was completely insane, and all because I asked people to keep personal visits to a minimum during work hours.